Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here on this Friday. Can you believe it? We finally made it to the end of the work week. Hopefully you've had a good week so far. And if you've been tuning in to Action 2 News this morning, you've already seen some of these stories, but you might have missed some of them. I do cover about 2 a day every morning, and sometimes when we talk about them, we only scratch the surface. So, there we go. So I do want to talk a little bit about these in particular this morning. Pediatricians want more one-on-one time with teens. That was one that I covered, and I'll explain what that means. There's also this survey that talked about the majority of parents who were surveyed in this particular one feel lonely, burned out. So parents, you might be able to relate to this survey. And then there's some tips about what to do if you're feeling that way as a parent. Also, this one I touched on this morning, the American Lung Association releasing Wisconsin's air quality report card. That was a national air quality report card. Pretty interesting, so I want to show you where Wisconsin is on that map and on that grade system. So we'll start with the story about the pediatricians and the teens. So with this story, it's talking about how pediatricians are encouraging teenagers to get involved on basically their own health journey, because they're transitioning, from being a child to an adult. That's that period of time in their lives. So pediatricians and the American Academy of Pediatrics released some new guidelines, some new guidance, I should say, on confidentiality for teens. It's more about getting obviously the teen to open up to their doctor about certain things, but also it's a way to allow teens to have those candid, open conversations without having to speak to their parents about this. And obviously the goal is to also involve parents, but for the most part helping that teenager then transition into adulthood by taking control of their own health journey. That could even include mental health. So AAP talks about how there's ways to take care of their health care for teens. One is having those conversations with doctors and starting that, getting used to doing that, and not having their parents do it for them, right? So AAP says a teenager gains new skills and independence on the path to adulthood. They also need to take responsibility, obviously, for their health care. So they talk about how it's a large part of a pediatrician's job is listening. And so they hope doctors can help teens by encouraging those conversations about, again, their physical and emotional health, because both are just as important, but it does start with creating an actual space for that. So if you want to take a look, that entire story is on WBAY.com under the Safety Desk tab, as I always say. Another one that I talked about that was a big hit this week, because I think a lot of people can relate to it, parents in particular who are watching Action 2 News this morning and maybe getting their kids out the door, is what I mentioned that day. But this was a survey, and it's a national survey, and it talked about 2/3 of parents feeling lonely, isolated, and burned out. So this was by the Ohio State University Wexner Center. And the parents that responded, out of those, 66% feel the demands of parenthood have left them feeling all of those things. Like I said, isolated, lonely, and burned out. Nearly 40% feel as if they have no support from others in that parenting role. So experts say, of course, we know burnout, that's nothing new, but things like the pandemic, and as we tried to transition out of that, a lot of parents got sort of stuck feeling like these expectations were in a different place from when they were before the pandemic, and that has stuck around, the same stressors. And it's a big reason why we do the First Alert Safety Desk, because we know how important that is for you and your family. So to help, and I just wrote, let's talk suggestions here. I wrote down some suggestions for you if you feel like this is something that is happening to you, or maybe you can relate to it in some way. If you're a caregiver for anyone, you might be in that same boat. So for those suggestions, looking for a walking companion, a carpooling group, any way that you can get out into the community. Obviously a really big deal that it's in person. You get that neighboring network going on. And then community organizations, parenting groups, other ways. But yeah, experts say a lot of parents don't want to admit to feeling that way because it might be seen as negative. But those experts that talk about this in the survey, they say, do your best not to think that way. Find ways to connect, especially in person, with other people who need that same support as you. And I think this again can translate to other things, not just parenting, but caregiving in any sort of way. Make sure you're staying connected with other people that are possibly going through the same thing that you are. So if you're just joining us, we're going through the First Alert Safety Desk stories that are the bigger ones that I chatted about this week on Action 2 News this morning. So if you're just tuning in, make sure you say hello, good morning, and let me know where you're watching from, all those good things. And just know that all the stories that I cover on Action 2 News this morning, as far as those safety desk stories go, they're right on our website, WBAY.com. There's a safety desk tab that's really handy. So far we've talked a couple of stories. I want to get into one more and then do an honorable mention for the last one. But this final one that I really want to get into is one that I covered this morning on Action 2 News this morning. It's talking about air quality, and we do this a lot. This topic is really a big topic, both what what's getting into our water, what's getting into our food, also what's getting into our air. So nearly 40% of people across the U.S., according to this report, are living with unhealthy air pollution. This is by the American Lung Association. They always do this big report. It takes them a couple of years sometimes to do it, though. So this one just came out for 2024. It's about 160 pages long, and it covers the years 2020 through 2022 with a lot of that data coming in last year. Obviously, it takes a long time to collect so much data from the EPA talking about that air quality throughout the United States. It did include Wisconsin, so we do have, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen so you can actually see where Wisconsin is and kind of see how the website actually works. I have the story pulled up for you. So there's the story itself, but if you click down, we always have the links that will help you get to what I'm talking about every morning right on the story, and you can see, and we've already got it on Wisconsin here, American Lung Association, State of the Air, that's their report. You could read about the cleanest cities. There were only just a few. You could talk about the most polluted cities, which ones are not doing so great. Here in Wisconsin, we've got, for example, Brown County and their A, B, C, D, E, F, G grades, or A, B, C, D, and then F, yeah. So Brown County has a C for high ozone days. Pollution, also a C. So you've got an A grade for some places like Grant County, Ozaukee, Sauk County, Waukesha, a B. So you could kind of just take a look at your area. It's interesting to kind of look this up. A lot of people do it based off of their health, because if they have some sort of lung disease, something like that could really impact your life. So if you want to take a look at that, that's on WBAY.com under the Safety Desk tab. And I mentioned one more story that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to actually use the website to find it for you. And I'll leave that up while I do that. Another story too, and I should mention this, is that our Emily Roberts did a story this morning about VA clinics offering drug drop-off day. So take a look at this, because it is time to check your cabinets for all those unused and expired medications so you can get rid of them safely. And she's got all the information here on our website if you want to take a look at that super important story that she was doing this morning. And I'm going to check for one more thing here. Tammy Elliott also did a really great story as a Consumer Report talking about a PayPal imposter, if you want to read up on that. And I'm not sure that the one I wanted to talk about is up on the website yet, so I will keep everybody posted. But there's so many other stories that I did this week that I thought were really impactful. This one right here, USDA changes the recipe for school meals, trying to make the school lunches healthier. There was this health alert about contaminated ground beef, and lots of other stories. Again, I cover about 2 a day, but like to get on here on Fridays to kind of do a recap, let you know what's most important, what was most important to you from what we were seeing online on social media. But if you ever have any stories that you think are impactful in our community, let me know, especially if it's a safety story. We talk about school safety, health safety, anything that impacts your family or your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors. Let us know. I always have my social media available to you. Just send me a message. Otherwise, make sure you tune in pretty soon here for Action 2 News mid-morning at 9 a.m. Bo Fogel is in for Steve this morning, and then Catherine is on for mid-morning, and then again at noon Hopefully you have a great weekend. I know there's some rain that Bo's going to be talking about for tomorrow, including it being a first alert weather day. So be safe out there, and I'll see you next week.